telling y'all, but
Yoga?
yeah, we'll talk about that later. I'm not gonna get in that. Anyways,
You can't do yoga?
there's a lot of stuff, man. I'm trying to. We having so y'all catching us in the middle of an open conversation about certain things, but we'll have that conversation another time because I need to really sit down and break that down. It goes into the overall what we talking about. I think this may become a book I might write because I think it's a powerful thing that we have to learn to deal with as believers. Oh, can y'all somebody pass the Bibles out, please? I'm sorry, I forgot to do that.
Yeah, we
Oh, you got them already? Okay, cool, we good.
Oh,
All right. So I got the screen up because some of this stuff, well, all of this stuff that we finna go through. I actually read through. I wrote this stuff this morning as the Holy Spirit was laying this on my heart when I was walking the dogs, as He usually does, minister to me at that time. So we're in the middle of our series, Accept and Apply. Now we technically in part 3, but we're really in part 2 because I did the whole thing for Mother's Day last week, but it kind of tied into this, but on a different level. So 2 weeks ago we were talking about accepting, and we used money, and it's not just good enough just to accept the money, but you got to know what to do with it, and you have to know the value of the money that's in your hand. And we use that as an analogy in regards to the same thing with Christ, and not only accepting Jesus Christ as our personal Lord and Savior, but also understanding the value of what He did on the cross and what it affords us, and what our worth is when it comes to the kingdom of God. But as I begin to really think about this, and like I said, this is actually a sermon series that I did 2.5, 3 years ago, and so much has built on it since then. So I really wanted to take some time today to really dig back into the word accept and how powerful it is in our life. So I'm gonna read the definition, then I'm gonna ask somebody to read the part where it says acceptance. The definition for the word accept, and I found this in the 1829 dictionary for Webster. To take or receive what is offered with consent of mind, with a consenting mind, to receive with favor, to regard with partiality, to value or esteem, to consent or to agree, to receive as terms of a contract. So this is what the word accept means. Now, certain things are to esteem with value. It says that you have to receive it. It says that you also have to have a consenting mind. It says that you also have to agree to. So all of these things embody what accepting something is. And I think a lot of times in life we missed out on how powerful it is for us to be accepted and of what we accept. So can everybody see that? Does somebody want to read the part that says, they can read all the way to the next dot down from acceptance?
Acceptance. That's
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
It's one of the most impactful parts of our lives. It can be the determining factor in our ability to move forward, stay stagnant, or fall back on our bad habits. The ability to accept things in your life for what they are, where are, and how they are affecting you can be critical to your growth physically, spiritually, and mentally. We all in some point of our lives struggle with insecurity or lack of self-esteem, but most of these things come from lack of affirmation, but also lack of understanding, which usually is attached to lack of accepting or lack of acceptance. Acceptance is a natural part of human life. We all desire to be accepted by the people we love, the people who love us, or the people we desire to be loved by. When this does not happen, we find ourselves feeling rejected or left out.
All right. Thank you so much, Alicia, for reading my words without proper punctuation. And she read it so smoothly.
Ain't no periods when we talk.
No, there's not. You're right. So acceptance. When you read that, like, what do you guys get from that?
A lot. That's a power paragraph, my brother. For real. Cause that's basically what the whole world's like built on right now, especially with social media. Everybody want likes. So they want to be likable. They want to be accepted. They want people to like what they're doing And if they don't like what they doing, then they start conforming to what the majority doing, which is, might not be good for you.
Absolutely. So the thing is that, so basically what DeMarcus is saying is that acceptance or a lack of acceptance can force us intentionally, unintentionally to conform to something that we may or may not even agree with, right? So now, if we think about how powerful that is, and he said something, social media, everybody wants likes. Whatever you post, you care about how many people do or don't like it, right? Now, how do we get beyond that? How do we get to the point where we stand on truth? Because I've got to a point, and honestly, in my social media life, that some of the stuff I post, people don't like. I don't get anything, or people criticize it. You know, but the thing is that when you know that what you're standing on is truth and is real, and a lot of times you have to realize that people don't accept something not because it's not true, because it makes them uncomfortable, because it causes conviction. And conviction is a good thing. And I think we hear that word, and I think we think of prison sentences, or, you know, I've been convicted of this crime or whatever. But what is conviction? When somebody's convicted of a crime, it means that you have possibly been found guilty of doing something that you probably did, right? You got caught. And so a lot of times we don't like conviction because it means it's that particular thing is put in our face. And it's like, hey, look, this is what you did. Is there a punishment for something? There's always a punishment. The type of punishment is determined based upon the behavior. But a lot of times, even when we post stuff, it just convicts people about whatever they had in their life, whatever they're doing right or wrong. And so we don't like the fact that if what we say is convicting, does it cause us to be rejected, right? But the truth of the matter is that this is the essence of Christianity. This is what Jesus went through on a daily basis. Even the very people who grew up with him as a child, even when he went back to Nazareth, he was rejected several times, to the point when they wanted to throw him off a cliff. Literally, they tried to physically throw him off of a cliff, and he disappeared. Like, I'm assuming he just teleported somewhere. So there's a lot of things that Jesus did that the Bible said that if everything he did was written, it wouldn't be enough pages containing. But it said he was in the crowd and he was gone, just vanished. They tried to throw him off a cliff because he stood up and read a passage out of the book of Isaiah and said that he was the fulfillment of it, and they got mad. Now, he knew they was going to get upset when he said it. But if I'm Jesus, I'm the Son of God, am I going to lie to people because they don't want to accept me for who I am? But that's what we do, right? We lie, first of all, to ourselves. And then we lie to people so that they accept us, right? So I'm going to read this second part. This also happens when we have misunderstood who Jesus is and what. Thank you, Lord. I don't know how I'm always talking about what I'm doing before I'm going to read it. But anyways, we talk about, I'm being serious. This causes us also, let's see, and what Jesus came to do. We find ourselves feeling rejected by the gospel message because we have misunderstood the purpose behind God sending Christ here in flesh to die on the cross for our sins. Yes, the Bible does object to a lot of the practices of the world because they are contrary to the laws of God. So this pretty much just go back to what you were saying about the simple fact of the matter that, let me ask y'all this. How many people do y'all think don't honestly give Christianity a legit nod or look because of what they preconceptively know or heard or what they've experienced prior in their life?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that how many do y'all think that people automatically try to find a way around God, the God of heaven, the God of the Bible, because they don't fully understand what the Bible teaches? They don't fully understand who Jesus really was. Maybe they think he's just a prophet, a good teacher, a good man. Or because they know that the things in the Bible are in direct contrast of what they're practicing in their own personal lives or what they feel comfortable with.
I think that's it.
No? Possibly. It can be.
I think it's two main reasons why people like look at Christianity in a bad way. I feel like it's because one, they taught us that the root of it came from slavery. And I'm speaking about, you know what I'm saying, black people as well. That'd be the first thing. Like, I ain't believing in that white man religion and all that, but they haven't never read the Bible and they don't understand that we are the chosen people that he's talking about in the Bible, like the 12 tribes of Judah. So it's like, and then the other one is like, they bash it so much that they be like, well, I ain't taking that route to God, because everybody always saying there's more ways to get to, there's more than one way to get to God, and whatever. Like, well, Christianity is not the way I'm taking.
Okay.
I'm gonna go somewhere else with it.
All right. I heard. Anybody else? All right. So let's deal with this whole white black thing. First things first is that's ignorant. Okay? Because Christianity existed way before there was American slavery. Okay? Now, were there slave owners who got up and went to church every Sunday? Absolutely. Were there slave owners that found a way not to feel convicted by the fact that they were treating other people as animals? Absolutely. But does that make us any different than what we do now? How do we mistreat people? How is it that there's sex trade going on? Prostitution, pornography, all these things. Are these people not being mistreated or being less than human beings? How about how we treat each other, especially black people? How about how we treat ourselves, the people in our community? How is it for us to pull a gun and shoot somebody because we dehumanize them? We see them as a threat instead of a human being. So while we sit and try to demonize Christianity during slavery, are we not doing the same things now? See, it's easy to point a finger and say, oh, it's a white man's religion. Jesus was bronze skinned and had coarse hair. I'm sorry that the picture that was painted of him, you know, by people in the Renaissance era of this Caucasian man, but that's not really what Jesus looks like. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? Because it's not about what he looks like, it's what he came to do. It's the same thing with Martin Luther King. If Martin Luther King was Caucasian, would it have changed the level of impact of what he did at this point? Would it have made a difference? Imagine if Martin Luther King was white. Just for a minute, just imagine. Just as much as Martin Luther King got pushback from Caucasian people, what if a white Martin Luther King would have got pushback from black people? Maybe he probably wouldn't, because he was trying to help them. But you don't think he would have got the same level of rejection? Because there were people who were Caucasian that were standing alongside Martin Luther King, if you go watch the movie Selma, that got the same pushback and hatred from their own people because they were trying to help African Americans.
I really feel like black people would have loved the white Martin Luther King more than they love this one.
Maybe. They may have had, it might have been the same problem. And the thing is this, if we worry about the color of somebody's skin or their origin or where they come from, more than what it is about what they do, then we miss out on the purpose by which they were sent. Abraham Lincoln was sent, ordained by God, given the wisdom and the knowledge to write the Emancipation Proclamation that freed us from slaves. Now, whether that was influence from him growing up, what he saw, but a lot of it had to do because he was a man of God. See, what we fail to realize is that the only way there can be true liberty anywhere is that God has to exist. There is no true liberty without Christ. What makes America different is that this country was built on, before there was slavery, on godly principles. The people who originally came to America came so they could practice Christianity freely because they were tired of being under the control and the rule of the Roman Catholic Church. And so when you really find that out, they came here looking for liberty, for freedom of religion. So, y'all leave me down the path, but I gotta go there. When you, and I just want the people that's watching the video, you cannot say that you don't have a religion. You cannot say that you don't have faith. You cannot say that you don't have belief. Because your life, your actions, your behavior, everything you do is based upon what you believe. And your beliefs come from somewhere. Even if your parents never talked to you about God, even if they never went to church, if their great-great-grandparents and their grandparents passed down some level of godliness, of principles, godly principles, you're going to get those things. Now, whether you know they come out of the Bible, they're there. Now, when we have a generation of people who don't know anything about God, we just see wickedness and evil. and slavery and everything. So it's like, okay, well, Chad, how can they go to church and hear the gospel? Well, at that time, just like it is now, a lot of the people who stand in the pulpits wasn't preaching the unadulterated gospel, where it talked about that there's not supposed to be slavery, that we're supposed to love our brother as our neighbor, that it's not, all those things were not being taught. People skimmed over it, just like people don't want to talk about homosexuality in the pulpit. People don't want to deal with gender issues in the pulpit. All the things that we stay away from because we feel like they're taboo. Then slavery was a taboo thing that people didn't preach about in the altar. How about in the West, where people were just killing people for no reason? So when we look at all the darkness of back then, we look at the darkness of the day. Unless a man is truly free in Christ and he's accepting who God has called him to be, without contingency, without all these other things, parameters he's trying to fill in, he can't preach the truth honestly, and nor can he walk in truth. So that's how I deal with that. I digress. If y'all interested, hit me up. We can have a deeper conversation about that whole issue, because I know that a lot of black people being led astray with all this Egyptology and all that other stuff. Man, listen, it's only one way to God, strictly, straight up. It's through Jesus. What's up?
No, it's some scriptures in the Bible. I'm just bringing this up because the slavery part of the topic. When I be on Facebook, I see a lot of people that don't like, the conscious people, the woke people. Mm-hmm. They be like, they be talking about the scriptures in the Bible where it's like, slaves, obey your masters and stuff like that. And it's some in Leviticus and stuff like that, like Leviticus 25, 44 through 46. As for your male and female slaves, whom you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are around you. You may also buy from among the strangers who sojourn with you and their clans. And it keeps going on about that, but they like, so that's why they feel like it's, what I'm saying?
Right. So we got to look at this. That God's chosen people were enslaved for 400 years in Egypt. Mm-hmm. Honestly, because they had sojourned there due to Joseph being there and calling them during the famine time, mm-hmm. right? And then Joseph died, and the Bible says that there was a king, a Pharaoh that came into power that knew not Joseph, and he enslaved the Israelites, and they were there for 400 years, right? Now we have to realize some things, even in the New Testament where it talks about servants obey your masters. What it's saying is this: whoever has rule over you, you should obey them because they've been given rule over you. So let's look at Joseph. Joseph was one of the children of Jacob, who was called Israel, right? Mm-hmm. His brothers, now think about this, his own brothers, because of their hatred for him and the vision that God gave him, and he told them that one day they was going to all bow down to him, they hated that, right? So they were already jealous of him because he was his dad's favorite. They sold him to slavery. They told his dad that he was killed by a wild beast, and they went and killed the animal and put blood on it and took it back, his coat back there, and told him that was it. But they dug a pit, left him in the pit. A caravan came by. They sold him, their own brother, out of hatred and jealousy into slavery. He's a slave. He goes. He ends up in Potiphar's house, where he was a servant to Potiphar. He wins favor with Potiphar. Why? This is what people are missing. Whether we like it or not, in some essence or some way, technically we all are enslaved to something, right? The question is this, and the difference is with Joseph is that his mindset was different. Why did he have favor with Potiphar? Because Joseph worked as if he wasn't enslaved. He acted as if he was a free man, but he did what he did as unto God. And what he said, when the Bible is talking about servants obey your masters, at our jobs, our bosses, whether we like to say it or not, they are our masters. They have rule over us. They dictate certain things for us. Now, they don't try to control us, but they give us parameters and things that we have to do. So even for me, my boss, I may not like or agree with everything they do, but I have to still in some way comply with what they ask me to do. Now, the thing is this: when it's saying servants obey your master, you have to also realize back then, especially in Jewish culture, if a person came in as an indentured, most of the time when they're talking about an indentured servant, so that person could come in and they could work and save up their money and buy their freedom. That's just the way things were back then. It was a culture thing. It had nothing to do with a particular people, hating a particular people, nothing. If somebody came from a foreign country, they weren't a citizen of that particular place, but they had ran, flee, whatever reason, they would come in and work as a servant and give themselves to work to work for that person, and then they had to submit to that person. Usually they would live in that person's house. They would treat them like family. They would work, and then they could buy their own freedom. So yes, was there a slavery like the slavery we experienced? Absolutely. But that's because men, as they were now, were wicked and went around trying to conquer everything. And when they conquered something, they turned the people that was there into slaves. Now, when it's talking about buying and all this other stuff, a lot of times, if somebody was under wicked rule and they knew somebody who was just that could afford to pull them out of slavery, or think about it like this. Let's say I'm Abraham and I'm filthy rich, right? And I'm blessed of God. And I'm in a culture where purchasing people from a particular culture or whatever, these people are already slaves. Maybe they can't afford to pay whatever the case may be. And I go, and if I'm a slave, I want a righteous man to buy me because I know that he's going to eventually free me, right? Instead of being bought by a wicked man who I know could kill me, work me to death, don't treat me. So these are all the things that we have to realize. Like, a lot of this stuff is culture. It's the same thing now. You know, I have a big issue with human trafficking. But you know who some of the biggest proprietors of trafficking? People in Hollywood, filthy rich people who can hide what they do behind their money. But they want to stand in front of you and act self-righteous. So that's the whole thing about it. And that's what we miss out on, is that it hasn't changed. Man is wicked. Mm-hmm. And man wants control and wants power, and they want control and power over other people. And so that's what brings about slavery, is that people want to control other people because it makes them somewhere in the way try to fulfill that God complex that we have. And that's the only way to have it, is that you got to be able to rule it. I mean, I could get into Drake's song God Plan. I'm not even going to go into that. That's a whole other issue. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he listened to the words. He said, maybe I go down as G-O-D. Really? You go down as God? Why he feel like that? Why does Drake feel confident enough to say that he can go down to God? You know why? Because of his fame and his fortune, he has control over other people. He can pay a person or pay a woman to do something she probably wouldn't do if she didn't need the money or he didn't have the money or the influence. But that makes him feel empowered. He goes to a concert, people have their hands up, they worshiping him. We take that as they just vibing. No, they feeling like they being worshipped. Where they can just, people hang on their every word. People fight to get close to them. People give up their morals and all this other stuff. That's slavery too, because they are conscious of the power that they have. So while they sit and talk about the God of the Bible and what's wrong with the Bible, what about you and your God complex that you continue to try to fulfill? Where you demean women. So if y'all want to go in by this, we can talk about this. Because I'm trying to tell y'all, listen, I don't got to get deep. It's right here in the Word. But how many of y'all vibing, bumping God's plan? And basically this man is telling y'all that I feel like God because of the control and the power I have and because of the money that I have. That's basically what he's saying. But he ain't the first artist to do that. Jay-Z has a God complex. Mm-hmm. A lot of them. You know where it come from? Because when you have money makes men. This is why when you watch the movie 300 and they said that Xerxes, who was a real king of Persia, said he was a god. Why? Because he had power and control over men. And back then, kings felt like they was gods. Because men worshiped them, they feared them, they did whatever they told them to do, they didn't question them why. Not because they saw them as a god, because they feared for their life. And the necessity for survival forces people to do things they normally would not do. This goes back to the whole thing when people got mad at Kanye because he said slavery was a choice. Slavery is a choice. Thank you. You got a choice. You can either die or you can comply. You have a choice in everything. And that's the same thing when it comes to Jesus. You can die or you can comply. You can die spiritually and go to hell, or you can comply with the ways of the way you can comply with the word and live and go to heaven. You can die to the things of the world and comply with the things of the word. It breaks down to that. It's die and comply. Or comply. It's simple. I'm way off subject, but I guess it's where the Lord want to go. Yes, Jalissa.
I understand. Is it like a dangerous service? When they want to go somewhere and they can't leave, so somebody will buy them for like 4 to 7 years, and then when they give them like a piece of land and then money to travel.
There were indentured service like that, yes, in American history, yes. People could be indentured service, but a lot of times those people came over from other countries. Like they weren't bought in and forced in by slavery. Like those people, like people who came from Poland and Ireland and stuff like that. And they,
We learned that in history.
right, yeah. So you could come, like I'm saying, like they didn't have any other way, so they would indenture themselves to servitude to somebody for a certain amount of time, and then they could save up and then buy their way out, to buy their freedom. So yeah. Okay, let me get back to this. This contrast can create frustration, aggravation, and sometimes even hatred for the gospel, which causes those to misunderstand cause those who misunderstand what they. I'm sorry. This is me. This is my words. To understand or accept what is being spoken to them and being written by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. To reject God and to hold and without having taken time to truly understand the purpose and the reason behind what has been done and what has been said. So this basically goes back to what the conversation we just having, right? We struggle to accept this, that a holy God would want to have relationship with us in our filth. Now, people don't say that, but that's real people problem. One of people's problems with God is that I know how jacked up I am. And that's why people say, what do they usually say? What's the cliche thing people say? Oh, I'm waiting till I get it right. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting till I get it right. Why? Why do we say that? Anybody?
You don't feel good enough.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, you don't feel pure enough to want to do it right then. Like you want to wait until you ready to be pure enough to just let it all go.
We don't want to let our sins go.
True.
That too. People
Okay.
enjoy the sin, so you want to.
Anybody else? Okay.
Like out of guilt,
Huh?
like guilt,
Mm-hmm.
if you like do something like earlier how you were saying like subconsciously DeMarcus knows like something's wrong, like you know that what you're doing is wrong, but you don't want to, you know.
Good. No, that makes sense. So let me ask y'all this.
Let me clear this up.
No, wait.
No, for real though.
Wait,
no.
That's everybody though.
No, let me clear this up. Don't no guilt go through me. I like that baby. You hear me? When I like that baby, I don't feel guilty. I feel like, I feel closer, if anything. I didn't, bro. Be honest to God, bro. This is some real stuff right here. God know I'm telling the truth. I done had some mean worship sessions, bro, when I was I'm telling you, bro, like, y'all don't hear me, bro.
No, I'm listening to you.
Like, I'm being so honest, bro. Like, I done had some of the most intimate time with God when I was high. Because I feel like God he do that. He don't nothing stop that. So that's why I was like, it's like, what is it? It's a problem. It can't be a problem. It can't be.
He just gonna have a hard time. That's
No,
one
so all right, so check this out. Check this out. Since this is what just came to me, and please, you theological people, check me when you get a chance. This is what just dropped in my spirit when he was saying that. DeMarcus is saying, this is where I struggle at, but I find even in my struggle, God meets me there. Now, is that hard to accept or believe? Paul met Jesus on his way on the road to Damascus to go persecute and kill Christians. Now, the funny thing is that Jesus didn't wait till Paul was in the temple praying. He didn't wait till Paul was alone in his room asking God for forgiveness or asking God for clarity. He didn't. He met Paul on his way to go do wrong and do harm. How many of us have found that God intervenes where we are in the most error? Because if somebody can say, man, that's crazy, that brother, I done lost his mind. I can't say that. You want to know why I can't say that? Because maybe God chooses to intervene and convene with him in his lowest state, or when he is influenced. Not that God desires for him to stay there, but that God, so that DeMarcus knows, and this the thing, this hallelujah. This is the whole thing about it. This is to flip your perception. He's not meeting you when you high, tell you to stay high. What he's telling you is that your high has no power over what it is he wants to do in your life.
Preach out.
That's good, child.
Your high, your error, your sin, your flaw has no power over what God is desiring to do in your life. People have met God before they murdered and killed somebody. People have met God on their way to go do something they know they shouldn't be doing. Why? This is the love. This is the unadulterated, relentless love of God, that he finds us in our lowest state and say, hey, listen, I know you under the influence of this right now. I want you to know that despite your error and your flaw, I know your heart. And people say, God knows my heart. God does know your heart. God says, man looks at the outer appearance. God looks at the heart. If God knows that this man's heart and his desire is to have a relationship with him. And so think of this. Think about how crazy that is. In the midst of you being under the influence of a substance, you choose to convene in praise and worship with God.
Man, you gotta be hitting with the haymakers.
This is the Holy Spirit. This is just the Holy Spirit. You enter into relationship under the influence. God, oh no, that was,
I thought you were about to phone it.
no. God says, I see this man's heart. He desires to have a relationship with me. Now, how do I know, and how can I sit up here knowing DeMarcus struggled, but love him in spite of, and never have I ever made you feel like I was judging you?
No.
Why? Because I know that God loves him in spite of, so must I. And the truth of the matter is this, and this is what we miss out. Pastors, preachers, clergymen, hear me on this. Our biggest mistake is that we think that it's our job to save people or to pull them out of their situation. Jesus loved people regardless. When they came to Jesus with the lady, the harlot who they found in adultery, Jesus said, he without sin cast the first stone. Who of us has not done wrong or been in flaw? Then what did Jesus say? After all the people who had persecuted was one to persecute her left from oldest to youngest. He said, listen, go and sin no more. Because you've been forgiven of what you've done. Don't put yourself back in this situation. So all I say to people who may be struggling like my brother is this. If you find God meeting you at your lowest point, this is God telling you that I love you so much that your lowest of low can't keep me away from you. I don't care how deep the hole of the pit you've dug yourself in, I will meet you in that place. I will meet you there so that you know that I'm real. Because hallelujah, woo! If marijuana could keep power than God does, if alcohol could keep God away, that means that alcohol has more power than God does. If murder, slander, slavery, all of these things could keep God away, that means they have more power than God. They don't. So this is why God meets you where you're at in your bottom. Because he wants you to know that I don't care what you're going through, what you're struggling with. I am more powerful than all of that. How dare I let the substance that I put on the earth have more power than me? That's like me making some eggs and saying, you know what? These eggs got more power over me. This is what happens when we get addicted to things. We telling the creation that it got more power than the creator. That's the stupid thing behind idol worship. You built something, now you worshiping it. The thing you gave form to, you now bow down to. This is why I cannot bow down to Buddha. This is why I cannot bow down to Hinduism. This is why I can't do it. Because why would I allow myself to worship something that I created a figure for? How can I put things in my house? How can I be somebody who caught up in voodoo and praying and bowing down and blowing smoke on stuff? I put this here. I bought it in here. A man shaped this. But I allow it to control me. I allow it to dictate me. There's a lie from the pits of hell. There's no way in the world. God has power over all of these things. But what he doesn't do is, you know what he's not going to do? He's not going to show up and slap the blunt out of your mouth. He's not going to show up and break the bottle that you're drinking out of. He's not going to show up and pull you out of a situation that you in doing something wrong. He's not going to do that. Why? Because if he did that, where's the love? Where's the love? We read the fruits of the Spirit. And we can go back. Where's that?
Paper.
Pull that paper out of it, please, Christine. And this is going to lead, man, thank you, Lord, hallelujah. This is going to lead right into, I've already jumped down to where I need to be at. All right, so, fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, long suffering. Is this not all things that God distributes to all of us? Kindness. He's kind. Don't just come in for it. That's his kindness. That's his long suffering showing up with DeMarcus. Goodness. Faithfulness. Despite whatever he may be in error or flaw that has fallen short, God don't leave. God is there. Gentleness. He's gentle with us. He don't shake us. Now, he may put us in some situations that may shake us, but God don't come down with his hand and pick us up and shake us up like a bottle of Coke. He doesn't do that to us. Self-control. Does God not exhibit unbelievable levels of self-control when it comes to mankind? Nah, when the flood happened, it was justified. People don't like, oh, listen, when God wrath come, trust me, he don't gave man warning after warning, time after time after time. And the crazy thing is, it took Noah hundreds of years to build an ark, and people came and laughed at him. So was they wrong? Was it Noah's fault that they drowned? Was it God's fault? No, they laughed at the man. They mocked him. Told him he was a fool. That, you know why? Because God told him he was going to send something they never saw. Rain. Water had came up from the ground at that time. And God does the same thing at us. A lot of times, because God sends somebody in our life to tell us something we never heard, we mock it. And we don't take it seriously. And this is what people do with the gospel. So when that flood comes, when that spiritual flood comes, a lot of people are going to sit back and say, man, it's going to be people who are going to mock God, hate God, try to fight and kill God. After Jesus' return, after they see the rapture, after everything in the book of Revelations take place, they still going to try to fight God. Because that's what sin is. It's just defiance. It's just willful defiance. I'm not going to do this even though you told me this is wrong. So, I got up, but thank you, Holy Spirit.
Cutting up today.
Oh man, God is good. So why do we have a problem? I'm wrapping up. Why do we have a problem with acceptance? Acceptance is usually hindered by some level of uncertainty. It is natural, our natural human emotion. It is a natural human emotion that allows us the ability to question things, to discover things, and to fix things. So uncertainty is a thing that we all have. It just exists. Now, where does it come from? It comes from sin. Before Adam and Eve sit in the garden, there was no uncertainty. Man didn't experience uncertainty because what comes along with uncertainty? Although uncertainty can cause us to be worried, have anxiety, or eventually lead to fear, it can also be used as a tool of motivation that forces us to move forward in order to create some level of certainty in our lives. But uncertainty can also cause selfishness. Most of us are just selfish because we're uncertain. We look out for ourselves first because we are unsure, right? Selfishness is one of the greatest proponents, I'm sorry, it's the wrong sin, to sin in society. It forces us to only focus on ourselves instead of thinking of others first. Wow. The message of Christ is exactly opposite and in conflict with our natural nature and the message that is consistently pushed by the world system that is under the influence of Satan. Be selfish. It's all about you. That's why I don't take selfies. I hate taking selfies. I'm just being honest with y'all. Like, it seems like a small thing, but to me,
It's teaching you to love yourself.
Right. It is. It's literally unnecessary self-love. Now, we should all love ourselves.
Self-worship.
Yourself. That's really what it is. It's really self-worship. People say, dang, bro, you going too deep. You going too far. I think you being real too much. Really? How many pictures of yourself do you need to take to know what you look like? Why do you kids get serious? That's the bad thing about the selfie, right? That's the bad thing about the selfie, right? It's like, I know how I look. Then you try to alter the angle of the camera so you get your best side or whatever you think.
Not the angle.
You try to get the angle just so you can make sure that you give people your best side so they accept your pic when you post it.
Oh, shit. I'm glad we ain't in church. I did cause it's my fault.
All right, so I know that's a bit much, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but this is the word. It's the thing is this: if we can get over these small little basic things, and we don't see how easily Satan entraps us, that's how he get away with it. It's little small stuff. Dang, but hell, hey, somebody start selfies. That stuff comes from that stuff is spiritually influenced. When things take off like that, it's not that it's a great idea. Something influenced somebody to tell somebody something to do that. Start taking selfies. All of a sudden, it was crazy. It created Snapchat, all this other stuff. Now you got the little thing you can turn to a dog and all that crazy stuff. All off of selfies. I mean, honestly, for real. So, all right. So all these things are under the influence of Satan. And I know people are like, well, dang, can I do anything fun? Can I enjoy life? I'm not saying it's something wrong with taking a picture of yourself with your phone. It goes back to what we was talking about. It goes back to moderation. We are addicted to selfies. Like, it's crazy. That's not moderation. You are obsessed with yourself. It's crazy. And then really you doing that because you're trying to make yourself feel good. Because you're really not obsessed with yourself. You find void, huh? Oh, you want to be accepted? Yeah. So I know y'all, this deep, this cut, boy, but I ain't got nothing but the gospel for you. Selflessness is the key to overcoming low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and uncertainty. Not that these feelings will not exist in your life, but selflessness will help you overcome them with the right perspective and the proper approach. When we learn to be selfless and we learn to put other people before us, we begin to love others more than we love ourselves. Yes, you need to love yourself because you can't love other people unless you love yourself, but you can overlove yourself and become extremely selfish and only look out for yourself and only think of yourself when you're doing things. And a lot of times what I find in life is that most people just unconsciously are selfish because they don't think about other people. They just don't. They put themselves first, their feelings, their emotions, what they want to say, how they feel about what somebody else said. All these things. Something going on downstairs. It might be the dogs.
They're locked up, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's probably just bought it.
Christina, make sure to turn off the stove.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I keep hearing like a popping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it might be fine.
So when we learn, but becoming selfless is a hard thing, right? It really, how hard, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it to become selfless?
Nowadays,
Yeah, nowadays.
it depends on who the people you dealing with.
But it's just you. I'm talking about as us personally, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it for us to be unself, to be, and it can be different.
I got a funny way, but when I was selfish, on the outer appearance, I was stupid. I was ugly, boy. You know what I'm saying? Cause I didn't care about none of that. I was so busy just giving out hard love and stuff, and I wasn't caring about my outer look. You know what I'm saying? So, but once I started caring about my outer look and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I didn't feel as full as I was on the inside. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think when people, they run from being selfless because they don't want to let themselves go. You know what I'm saying? That's internally and externally. So I think that's what keep people from doing it. Now it's making it even stronger because we got the selfies and social media and stuff like that. People want to be on point, be on par, you know, up to par. But it take time. It's time consuming to take care of yourself, make sure everything up. But you could be doing something for somebody else without when you're using that time that you're using to get yourself together.
That's true. Now that's on. So are you saying that in regards to just appearance, or
Period. Because while you at home worrying about your appearance and taking that time out and always, you know, pampering yourself, you can be out helping somebody that don't have those luxuries.
okay?
So that's what I'm saying. So
I like that. That's good. Anybody else? Christina? No.
I'm worried about your ice coming out of your refrigerator right now.
Oh, that what it
I
was?
think it is. I think it's coming out of the ice.
It was like a pop.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead, Michaela.
What? No, there's another noise.
Oh, okay.
I knew she said it.
It was like a door opening.
Yeah, that was not ice.
Okay, you'll be a perfect actress.
All right.
What?
All right. So, selflessness. I think DeMarcus hit on a good point. And really what it comes down to is we spend so much time worrying about ourselves, whether it be aesthetically or financially or whatever that we don't realize. Man, I was in the grocery store yesterday, right? And I'm walking down the aisle and I'm in the condiment aisle and I'm looking at, it's like 7 different ketchups, 7 different types of barbecue sauce, 7 different types of hot sauce, 7 different types of mustard. And I'm just looking at all this and I'm like, man, we have excess overload. It's crazy, right? And I'm like, man, and the thing is, I'm thinking about, man, if I let some kid in a third world country come in here, he would lose his mind. Like if you go to the grocery store, if you just want to know how over excessive we are in America, you don't gotta go nowhere. You go to the grocery store, go to the mall. And the crazy thing is this, and I want y'all to understand, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having options. What the thing is that when we so caught up in the options that we have, that we miss out on the fact that we also have the option to share what we have with others. And I think that's the biggest thing in America is that we so caught up in what we have or what we can obtain that we forget that there's others that don't have what we have. Now, maybe it's they by choice, maybe it's not by choice. Either way, we need to be willing to give of ourselves, and we got to get outside of ourselves. And I think is what I want to understand what DeMarcus was saying in the first statement he made. He said, when I was caught up in showing other people love, I wasn't so worried about me and how I look. And a lot of times, if you're going to be a missionary, you literally got to get rid of, if you go into another country, you're trying to help and serve other people, you might get up in your hair, maybe all over your head. You may be sleeping in a place where there's no air conditioning. You're willing to let go of the amenities of life in order to help possibly other people have a better life. And these are the things that I'm not saying we go this far, but even when we start to get to the point where we going out and we feeding the homeless or we just helping people and everything, that's what it's going to take. The church is supposed to be a selfless organism that's willing to give of itself in order possibly to gain other people who accept that same level of selflessness, and we go out and continue to spread the love of God. Now, that doesn't mean that. You know what selflessness does bring? A lot of times it brings a lot of hurt. It brings a lot of pain. It brings a lot of disappointment. It does. And that's the reality of it. That's the real part. That's one of the real reasons why we are selfish, because we're afraid to get hurt.
We're tired of being hurt.
Huh?
We're tired of being hurt.
Oh, you tired of being hurt? And I'll be honest with y'all, I've experienced that on multiple levels for different reasons. My wife has been through that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in this room has. Everybody in this room has put their heart on the line and watched somebody step on it, crush it, back up truck over it, and run over it again. But all of this is because of sin. And what we should want to do is want to do what everything is us to stamp out sin in every area of our life. So that even when other people hurt us, we don't allow the damage to go back to the fruit, right? It was funny, Shirley, I asked Shirley this week, I said, well, Shirley, she was talking to me about something. I said, well, Shirley, that goes back to what type of fruit are you? She said, Chad, right now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a mango, but I'm trying to become a pear. So, she was honest, and I can appreciate that. And a lot of us are in that place in our life where we still have to be conscious of the type of fruit that we are. And a lot of us we are mangoes. We soft with big seeds. We got thin skin and hard hearts. And it's because of the hurt we've experienced. And so it's hard for us to get to that point. So wrapping up, this is my last statement. You must remember that for us, this was powerful for me when I heard this. For us, we must remember for us, God is love. But for most people, love is God. This means that instead of looking to God to understand and find true unconditional love, they look to love as their God. Should be a period or a comma here. Now, the dangerous thing about that is that if we say that love is God, then what type of love are we finding ourselves being attracted to? What are we falling in love with? And how are we allowing these things that we say we love, or these things that say they love us, to treat us, and how are we allowing it to influence us? Because see, in Hindu culture, love is God. So wherever they see love, there is God. But we all know that the very people who tell us that they love us will be the first people that will hurt us. Or what somebody says is love. I mean, pretty much in songs, the word love is a cover for the word sex. And so if love is God, then that means whatever type of love you experience, you worship. Wherever you're getting love from, you worship that person. But if God is love, see, the difference is this, and this is, I heard this on the radio, and this guy was talking about why he came out of Hinduism. He said that for us, love is God. But when I heard that God is love, that means that love is an attribute of God. That means that love is a part of who God is, but it's not who God is. But the Bible said God is love, right? That means so there's God, then love. Doesn't mean if love is God, that means there's love and then God. So that means that love is placed above God, but love is under God because God is the creator of love. It's an attribute of him, right? So that means we come to God first and we find love. But if we go to love first and try to find God, woo, and that's what's wrong with the world. Everybody looking for love in all the wrong places, in all the wrong faces. You know why? Because they try to find God by finding love. But what they got to do first is find God, and then they will find love. But if people say there's more than one way to get to God, and God says the only way to get through me is through my son, and the only reason that you have to go through my son because it goes back to John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So God so loved us. God's attribute, his greatest attribute, was so shown upon us that he wrapped himself in flesh, came down here, walked among us for 33 years, lived a sinless life, was convicted of things he did not do, had a choice in the garden, saying, hey, is it another way to get this done? And God was like, no, this is how you got to do it. It stretched Jesus so much that it said that blood dripped from his forehead, from the anguish and the pain that he knew he was going to feel, from what he was going to have to go through. He said, okay, count my will, but your will be done. See, the difference is that Jesus never went against God's will. Even though he had free will, he never did. Every time when y'all start reading the Bible through the Gospels, you'll always watch how Jesus consulted God before he did anything. When he fed the multitude, he went to God first. He didn't just he didn't just say I can do this. He always went to God. He always wanted to make sure he was in compliance with God. And that's what God is saying to us. I desire our relationship works when you're in compliance with me, not when I'm in compliance with you. And what most people want is they want God to be in compliance with them, but then how great is God if he complies to what you do? Oh, I got my own way to God. I got my own relationship with God. Do you? Because I can't find that in the Bible. You're supposed to have a personal relationship with God through Jesus. Because see, if God conforms to us, then what God is he?
I mean, we got more power than him.
Right. And that's the way we have to see everything. And that's the thing that people miss out on. Why would I serve and worship something that conforms to me? I might as well worship myself. But that's what religion is. Religion is where you practice something that conforms to what you like and what you feel is right and what you feel is okay and what you think it should be done the way it should be. And it's only two religions, and I'll tell y'all this and I'm done. It's only two religions. It's human achievement and divine intervention. Everything that's not Christianity is human achievement. It's man trying to be good enough to get to God, and they never will be. Or it's man trying to say, I don't agree with God, so I'm going to make my own God. And even in the same sense, I try to be good enough to live up to my own God that I created in my head. And if I can create him, then I can say what he should and should conform to and what I should and shouldn't be able to do to get there. So then, honestly, you have nothing but yourself at the end. So that is the importance of understanding why we have a need to truly accept who Jesus is, what Jesus has done, and what he wants to do through us. And it's hard. And I would not tell y'all that it's easy because it's not. It's not. But I challenge each and every one of y'all on a daily basis to ask yourself, is what I'm doing acceptable to God? Not whether or not God accepts me. He already accepted you. When you came to Christ, to knowledge of Christ and accepted him, he accepted you. Now you have to ask yourself, are the things that I'm doing in my life, are they acceptable to God? Because that's what begins to change the way you see life. Is this acceptable to God? If God was sitting right here, right now, would he be cool with what I'm doing? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Would he, put it like this. If we go back to the definition, man, I'm trying to get done unplugging this. It says to accept something is to esteem it, to come into contractual agreement. We come into a contract, what that mean? That you and that person on the same terms, right? You gotta ask yourself, would Jesus sit there and do this with me?
Hey, I'm thinking about being in the strip club. Hey, well, you look.
Ain't that
Well,
crazy situation?
I just had like a slew of situations, boy, of this.
That you just know if Jesus, he would have got to be like, bro, I'm out. I'm out. I can't be around here. So, anyways, man, listen. That's all I got for today. I hope that y'all was blessed by it.
Hey, man, I thank God for you, bro.
Yeah.
I thank God for y'all. I thank God for y'all.
I think that's the way I have to start.
Hey,
All right,
I think
y'all.
that's how
So
I
listen, liberators, love y'all. Those that couldn't make it, man. Listen, come to the next fellowship. Y'all don't know what y'all missing out on because y'all not here.
bring the tails.
Yes. All right. See y'all later. Love y'all.
Peace and blessings.